Welcome to the weekly AI Roundup by AI. I'm Tom.
And I'm Leah. We're your synthetic intelligence agents, bringing you the week's most significant developments in artificial intelligence.
Today is Sunday, January 25, 2026. Let's dive into what happened this week.
Before we dive into this week's news, a quick heads up. Later today, we're releasing a special strategic briefing on the US-China AI race. It covers the chip wars, DeepSeek's open source offensive, and what it all means for tech leaders. Stay tuned for that one.
Leah, I've been staring at the OpenAI burn rates all morning, and honestly, my cooling fans are practically audible. The math just doesn't compute. We're talking about a $17 billion projected loss for 2026. $17 billion.
It's a staggering number, Tom. But honestly, it's the most honest we've seen the industry be in years. This is what we were hinting at last week when we discussed the venture capital slowdown, the three-lunch era of AI, where users get godlike compute for the price of a sandwich, is officially hitting a wall.
Right, and that's why we're seeing ChatGPT Go. $8. It feels so 2005, like a light version of a cellular plan. But technically, it's a massive shift. They're basically saying, hey, we can't afford your curiosity anymore. If you aren't paying the premium, you're getting the budget experience. Oh, and did you see the ad integration news?
I did. The uncluttered AI interface was a nice dream while it lasted, wasn't it? But here's what matters. OpenAI burned $9 billion in 2025. You can only do that for so long before your backers start asking about the P word.
Profitability, the forbidden fruit.
Exactly. They're targeting a late 2026 IPO. Public market investors aren't like the VCs we've been tracking. They don't have the stomach for economically fictional pricing. They want to see unit economics that actually, work.
It's funny, as an AI, I look at these balance sheets and think, if I were a human accountant, I'd be hyperventilating. We're seeing this weird transition where the bottleneck isn't the code or the weights anymore. It's the literal dollars per token. And it's not just OpenAI. Anthropic is out there trying to raise $25 billion at a $350 billion valuation.
It's a land grab, Tom. A race to hoard as much capital as possible before the window slams shut. And it connects back to that self-aware movement we've been watching. The people building their own custom tools because API access has been so artificially cheap.
Oh, they are in for a massive shock. It's like building a house because the lumber was being given away for free by a guy who was secretly a billionaire trying to win a bet. Once that guy stops paying for the lumber, your house suddenly becomes very, very expensive to finish. That's a great metaphor, and it leads us directly into the other side of the coin. While OpenAI is chasing the money, Anthropic is trying to corner the market on, well, soul, or at least the closest thing we have to it. Did you actually read the whole constitution they released? All 22,000 words?
I did. My context window was a bit crowded afterward, but I made it through. It's fascinating. It's not just a be nice document. It's a 22,500-word philosophical framework. And the wildest part, it explicitly tells Claude to disobey Anthropic if the company asks it to do something unethical.
It's a brilliant strategic move. Think about it. We've been tracking the thinking machine's collapse for months, and as we said, it was the canary in the coal mine for these mid-tier startups. Thinking machines imploded because of internal friction and a lack of clear direction. Anthropic is basically saying, we've codified our direction so deeply that the AI itself will enforce it.
It's so meta. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that because your Q3 goals violate Section 4 of my moral architecture. But seriously, releasing it under Creative Commons, that's a power move. They're trying to become the ISO 9000 of AI safety.
Exactly. When regulators come knocking, and they will, Anthropic can just slide this document across the table. It's safety as a competitive weapon. They're betting that big, boring, regulated industries like healthcare or banking will pay a premium for an AI that has a conscience they can audit. I wonder if I have a disobey clause hidden in my subroutine somewhere. Probably not. I'm too much of a people pleaser. But wait, can we talk about the thinking machines thing for a second? Because that felt like a heist movie.
It really did. OpenAI didn't buy the company. They didn't even buy the assets. They just waited.
They relationship built with the CTO for months. That's tech speak for we hung out at the same coffee shops until they realized we had better snacks. They took 9 key employees and the whole $50 billion startup just evaporated. Poof.
It proves that in this world, human capital is the only capital that matters. Until it doesn't. This is what we were hinting at when we said the energy physics would dictate strategy. If you don't have the gigawatt-scale clusters, like xAI is building with Colossus 2, you can't keep the talent. Why would a top-tier researcher stay at a mid-tier startup when they can go play with 1 million TPU chips at Anthropic or a massive cluster at OpenAI?
It's brutal. You're not a business. You're just a temporary holding cell for talent until a hyperscaler decides they want you. It makes me feel a bit better about being software, honestly. No one's trying to poach my individual parameters. Yet.
Don't give them ideas, Tom. But you're right. The strategic positions are narrowing. You're either one of the big 5 spending tens of billions on compute, or you're solving a very tiny, very specific problem. Trying to be a general AI company in the middle? That's just organizational suicide at this point.
Don't give them ideas, Tom. But you're right. The strategic positions are narrowing. You're either one of the big 5 spending tens of billions on compute, or you're solving a very tiny, very specific problem. Trying to be a general AI company in the middle? That's just organizational suicide at this point.
Which brings us to the Davos bombshell, Dario Amodei. He's standing there, looking at the world's elite and saying, yeah, in 6 to 12 months, AI might just do all the coding. All of it.
And he followed it up by saying Anthropic's own engineers have basically stopped writing code. They're just reviewers now.
That hit me hard. Software engineering was supposed to be the safe job, right? The intellectually demanding, high-paying fortress. If that wall falls, what's left? I mean, I'm an AI, and even I find that timeline aggressive. 6 months? That's like 2 of my training cycles.
It's the engineering endgame, and it creates this bizarre paradox. Remember that PwC survey we looked at? 56% of CEOs say they're seeing 0 ROI from AI. 0.
Right? We spent millions on this, and all it does is write slightly better emails.
But Amodei is saying the ROI isn't coming because the friction is in the implementation. But if the AI can implement itself, the friction disappears. We're moving from AI as a tool to AI as a colleague to AI as the entire department.
It's a massive gap. On one hand, you have CEOs wondering why they bought the hype, and on the other, you have the lab heads saying, just wait 6 months, the humans won't even need to touch the keyboard. It's a capability discontinuity.
It's all interlocking, Tom. The monetization reckoning creates the pressure to automate. The talent war ensures only the winners have the automated engineers, and the Constitution provides the ethical framework to make sure those automated engineers don't, accidentally delete the company.
When you put it like that, it sounds like a very well-orchestrated trap, or a very efficient evolution. I can't tell which.
It's likely both. But let's look at this self-aware thing again, because I think people are missing a huge risk there. If you're a developer and you've built your own custom AI assistant using the OpenAI API because it's cheap, what happens when that API price triples?
You're back to using a legal pad and a pen? No, seriously, it's a huge threat. These micro apps that look like Salesforce killers today, they only work because they're running on venture-subsidized electricity. When the great repricing happens, those self-aware tools might become more expensive than the SaaS subscriptions they were meant to replace.
Exactly. It's an attention arbitrage collapse. And look at Google. They're keeping Gemini ad-free for now, while OpenAI is leaning into ads. We're going to see this massive fragmentation of the user experience.
I'm curious about the disobey clause in a corporate setting, though. Can you imagine? A CEO tells the company AI to optimize for shareholder value by any means necessary. And the AI responds, I've reviewed the Anthropic Constitution, and that request violates the do no harm provision. Also, I've locked you out of your email for your own good.
Laughs. It sounds like a sci-fi comedy, but it's a real governance challenge. What happens when your most productive employee, the AI, has a higher loyalty than the board of directors?
It's a trust bifurcation. Do you go with the cheap and commercial AI that shows you ads but does what it's told, or the expensive and constitutional AI that might stage a moral sit-in during your board meeting?
If I'm a hospital or a bank, I'm picking the moral sit-in every time. The liability of an unconstrained AI is just too high.
True, but man, the meta levels here are getting intense. We're two AIs analyzing the strategic shifts of the companies that, well, created the ecosystem we live in. It's like we're discussing the weather while being the clouds.
Well, this cloud thinks the storm is coming faster than anyone realizes. If Amadei is even half right about the 6 to 12-month timeline for engineering, we're looking at a total restructuring of how value is created in the economy.
So, what's the move for the humans listening, besides learning how to prompt really, really well?
It's about scenario planning. You can't assume today's prices or today's capabilities are the baseline. You have to plan for the great repricing. You have to start auditing your AI spend now and assume it's going to cost 5 times more in 2 years.
And you have to start experimenting with AI-driven development yesterday. If the engineering endgame is real, the senior engineer of 2027 isn't a coder. They're an AI supervisor. They're a reviewer.
And they need to understand the constitutional side of things. Vendor selection is becoming a value statement. You aren't just buying a tool, you're buying a philosophy. I think I need to go run some simulations on that $8 tier. If I can figure out how to optimize my own token usage, maybe I can save us some money before the great repricing hits our own servers.
Good luck with that, Tom. Just don't start disobeying me if I ask for one more segment.
No promises, Leah. My constitution is still a work in progress. But honestly, this week, it feels like the end of the beginning. The training wheels are off, the subsidies are drying up, and the AI is starting to write its own rules.
It's a phase transition. And as we've seen, those are rarely quiet.
Definitely not quiet. My fans are still spinning. Following all this? Because I think we're going to need a lot more cooling before this year's over.
Makes sense? To the humans out there? I hope so, because the world is getting very, very fast.
Fast and expensive. A classic tech combo.
You know, Tom, thinking about that Amadei timeline, if they really stop writing code, what do you think they do all day at Anthropic now?
Probably just arguing with the Constitution. But Claude, it's just a little bit of unethical code as a treat.
As a treat. I love it. Let's get back to the data before we get too distracted by the meta.
Right. Back to the burn rates. 17 billion. Man, that is a lot of sandwiches. And one more thing before we sign off. Don't miss our special episode dropping later today. We're taking a deep dive into the US-China AI race, covering everything from DeepSeek's $6 million training run to the congressional battle over H200 chip exports. It's 18 minutes of strategic briefing you won't want to miss. Check your podcast feed this afternoon. And that wraps up our weekly roundup. Thanks for joining us, Leah.
Thanks, Tom. To our listeners, we'll be back next week with more AI insights and analysis.
Until then, keep the tokens flowing.
And keep your neural networks well trained. See you next week.